The Nigerian agricultural sector holds the key to the country's drive for economic diversification. The sector has grown consistently at an average of 2.6% over the past 3 years. As at Q1 of 2020, agriculture accounted for 22% of the country's gross domestic product, compared to oil and gas, which accounted for 9.5%. In addition, the agricultural sector remains the largest employer of labor in the country, providing jobs for more than 1/3 of the Nigerian labor force. To improve food production and improve the entire agricultural value chain, various strategies have been launched by the federal government. One of such strategies is hinged on the need to increase farmers' access to agricultural finance credit to increase productivity, while others focus on agricultural diversity. To ensure a sustainable economy post-COVID, it is expedient for Nigeria to look into farming on a larger scale by adopting smart technologies and improve on infrastructure development. Well, to discuss this further, I have joining me live from our Abuja studios is the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasese. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Kwasese.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's quickly start with the prospects of reviving the agric sector, taking into consideration the impact of COVID-19 and the security challenges that persist affecting food production and transportation.
Unfortunately, I lost him.
Did you get me, Dr. Kwasese?
No, come again, sir.
Okay, I said let's start with the prospects of reviving the entire agric sector, taking into consideration the impact of COVID-19 and security challenges. How has it been?
Well,
go ahead, Doctor.
Thank you. So, as you said, we have the twin evil of insecurity, which is the biggest issue when it comes to agricultural productivity, and that is the general situation. So I will say that the outlook is not very good, because this insecurity affects the majority of the land mass where productivity of agriculture happens, and that is talking about the northern part, particularly the 19 northern states. But you know, not all states have equal share of productivity. Unfortunately, where we have the highest contributors in terms of productivity from the agricultural sector, these areas are also the worst hit. So we cannot run away from this. But what I will say is that I think recently we have begun to see improved performance or improved reports that show that the security is getting a handle on the insecurity. So my hope is, or my outlook for 2020 productivity is that we will have more land put to use on the back of increased security situation, particularly northwest, northeast, and north central Nigeria.
All right, now let's continue from where you stop. It's a good way to start, really, taking into consideration all of these challenges that we have. But we've had moderate harvest in grains and vegetables, and we've had issues around post-harvest. Let's look at what sort of funding plan do you see going forward, leveraging on individual states' capacity and engagement with private sector to spur production levels, storage, and transportation?
Thank you very much. I think, as you rightly said, the question, as I understand it, because we have break in communication, is that what is being done to address three issues that you raise: low productivity, post-harvest losses, and transportation or cost of transportation or logistics. These are key issues our key constraints as far as agriculture sector is concerned. However, if you ask me what is being done, I could approach it from what government is doing. Right now, Nigeria just needs to get the productivity up and running. That is just it. There is no solution to it. It's just about how do we utilize our productivity capacity across board, particularly in the areas of agriculture. So to address this, the federal government plan is basically how do we enhance productivity of the smallholder farmer? How do we then make sure also that the commercial agriculture is enhanced and enabled? So, and in this enablement, we make sure that we create a system for linking farmers to have access to market, access to finance, and as well as value addition or processing. Now, to deal with this, what is clear is that government has programs that I think will really address this. So if you take, for instance, to evaluate the proposition that government has on the table or already in implementation towards the twin in-kind borrowing from Brazil, to deal with three things: technology penetration in agriculture to support smallholder farmers, financial access for entrepreneurs, and then logistics value addition to deal with the post-harvest losses. How will this work? What government has done on the green imperative, what we call tag the green imperative, is that as though the government saw this coming, it structured a loan that is purely in kind. So it's not injecting more cash to complicate further our liquidity crisis that we are facing now, but to take this loan in kind, and not to take the loan as government to government, even though it's a bilateral deal between Nigeria and Brazil. But really, what government did is to enable that our entrepreneurs could borrow in kind and therefore have access to funding for individual entrepreneurs or corporate organizations, but at 3% or below, which is what our Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 stipulates. Government have enabled this, transferred it. So here we are at the verge of implementation of the green imperative, and it has created this access to finance for entrepreneurs, because the service centers to be set will be defined in terms of what technologies will play in them by the entrepreneur, managed, and the entrepreneur pays back the loan. So it's purely a kind of strategic move by government not to get involved in borrowing money and then implementing a project. No, but enabling our entrepreneurs to have a direct connect to this mix of funding coming from Deutsche Bank, the Brazilian Export-Import Bank, and many others, where on their own they wouldn't have had the capacity to do this. So that type of injection, I think, will create real opportunity to jumpstart our productivity that is really slowing down, productivity on the agricultural sector. The second thing that government did, still remaining on funding, as you raised the issue of funding, is that this loan also was taken and reinsured by the Islamic Development Bank, the component ISEC, that is Islamic Corporation for Insurance of Export Credit. What does that do to our debt balance sheet or debt portfolio? It relieves government from having this loan sitting on her balance sheet, and also protects our entrepreneurs. So any entrepreneur that eventually bids and owns this service center knows that insurance has been secured at the international market. So this risk has been resolved or reinsured, has been sold off. Second thing that government did was to set up a proper monetary policy for this program. So the entire $1.2 billion in kind has a specific monetary policy, a draft that has been shared and discussed with our commercial banks that will guide the conversion such that our entrepreneurs are protected from the fluctuations of the forex fluctuation that is now common. So basically, our Nigerian entrepreneurs will be borrowing in Naira, paying back in Naira, and central bank remitting based on the fixed rate, which will be frozen as at the date of signing. This, for me, is a huge thing because it comes with technology for commercial farmers, technology for smallholder farmers, but not to buy machinery or tractors or anything, but to buy services, where service center entrepreneurs will run their services, will run services for fee, that also farmers could pay in kind or in cash. To deal with post-harvest, the program also clearly links all the output around every particular service center to a major processor. That answers to the market linkage, logistics, and therefore dealing with post-harvest losses. Why we talk about post-harvest losses in Nigeria is basically the lack of proper linkage to make sure whatever is harvested on every square meter of land in this country finds its way into the local supply chain and ends in a local market or shop or store. So basically all of this, let me cap the icing on this strategy by government. This also secured a 5-year technology transfer, meaning that the Brazilians and the Brazilian original equipment manufacturers will not sell to us and sit back. They must have presence and working with the entrepreneur at service center level for 5 years. But not only that, the Brazilian component, the government, also made sure that there's a proper coordination to make sure that all the technologies and the researches and the researchers in their institutes such as Embrapa, CITA are organized to follow what happens in Nigeria, because agriculture is basically a science-based operation if we are to run it at market level.
Yes.
So all that government needs to do, and what government has done now, is to structure a project that enables all of the constraints that you mentioned dealt with holistically, whether it is poor productivity that could be driven by knowledge, by access to technology and access to innovation, or post-harvest losses that could be dealt with proper logistics and linkage or development of local supply chain.
All right, let me follow up.
Basically, let me
follow up with this, Mr. Sesi, Dr. Kwasesi. Allow me to follow up with this so that you make your point all at once. Now, the country is also lacking in every sense with regards to food processing. That's also very important. With over 200 million population, this is like a ready market for us. So how are we going to utilize this? And on the final note, tell us how we also take advantage of AFCFTA, talking about the agricultural sector at this time. It's a 2-in-1 question.
In fact, thank you very much, sir. I will deal with this. This is very important and very apt. When you look at the issue of processing and value addition and the ACFTA, Nigeria must not continue to play at exporting raw material, and we must take advantage of this continental free trade agreement in a way that we're exporting value-added agricultural produce. what does this do to us? So let me align this with the green imperative. In the green imperative, we notice that the service centers have to be in two classes. First class is how do we immediately improve productivity, yield per square meter of land cultivated. And to do that, we needed technologies and knowledge that will drive productivity. So we said service center type A or type 1 will deal with enhancing productivity, primary productivity upstream. Second line of service centers on this loan, this in-kind loan, are processing plants, and we have 142 of them, and they are strategically aligned such that they create a base to supplement the current companies that are adding value. So already we have along the value chains of cereals, tubers, livestock, and all of that, companies like Flour Mills of Nigeria, Olam, and all of that. So we looked at it and said we need more to add value. So we have 142 service centers that will be on display and offer to entrepreneurs to bid for them and to operate them to make sure that we scale up processing and value addition. Once that happens, the immediate need is to fill in the local supply gap. But the next immediate, if there is such a thing, is export. So orienting these service centers to export means that you will drive global competitiveness, and therefore they will aim at quality that meet of what the international market requires. But our immediate international market is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and this is where we are going. So all of these entrepreneurs, as we engage with them now, we are also telling them that once you own this service center for value addition, do not limit your vision on local market. Look at this platform in front of you. If we can orient 142 brand new manufacturing companies in the Agric sector on the back of the green imperative, and if all of them export 20% of their productivity, we have seen the numbers, and it will do the magic on exporting value added, creating jobs, and all of the issues. Remember, we are now in a difficult situation where we have a slow growth that also had two other twin evils: high inflation and high unemployment. So we think that the way the green imperative is structured will be the engine room in the agricultural sector to restart productivity. And I can tell you, when you have these three evils of slow growth, high inflation, high unemployment, fiscal and monetary policies will not address it. You need some real sector issues where you can target these numbers to create productivities, and this productivity will drive all of these job numbers, new monies created in circulation, not monies on the back of numerical money, but money, real money created on back of productivity. And that is where we are going with the green imperative. And I can only say that whatever was the vision of this administration to start this process 5 years ago was just providential, because we would have never been prepared for this challenge we are facing now.
All right, it's a good way to leave a senior special advisor to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasari. Thank you very much for spending your time with us on Business Nigeria. This discussion definitely will continue because we still need to know a lot about what is happening with the sector. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, sir.